You're listening to Fish Grow Plants, a podcast all about practicing and sharing the love of aquaponics, hosted by Logan Schoolcraft.
Hello and welcome to Fish Grow Plants. In today's episode, we're discussing water routines. Yeah, I know that title sounds a bit funny, but it kind of summarizes what I mean by the process. I wouldn't even have called it that if it weren't for realizing that I have a routine myself, and sadly it's a pretty awkward one at that. My current setup is far from ideal in a lot of ways, and this water situation is just one of them. I mean, when you have to run a water line across the room to fill up your system, you might realize something is amiss. And add to the fact that the line is nothing more than a trip hazard to me, it's ended up on the floor just running water all over the place. I just want to scream sometimes. Nevertheless, I persevere and make it work with a mindset that it's temporary, and I'll get a better method figured out to alleviate my pain. Besides, if I didn't have all the pain and missteps, I probably wouldn't learn a single thing. And with all that pain and learning comes a lot of appreciation and gratitude for when things do work and go fantastically well. So, what are some things I consider part of the water routine? Well, I'd say things like source water checks, pumps and fluid motion checks, backup and storage water checks, and statistics, including measuring, testing, and recording. Alright, for source water checks, I'm talking about simple things, like making sure plumbing is still secure with no leaks, there's not been a contamination issue, or the water completely stopped flowing. You know, the big obvious things. I covered source water in a separate episode if you'd like to hear more. For plumbing and fluid motion checks, that's exactly as it sounds. I go around making sure I have moving water, i.e. my pumps are doing their jobs. But I also look and listen at the pumps. Do they need to be cleaned, swapped out, or things just humming along fine? Again, just the basics here. It's a routine after all. As far as backup and storage water is concerned, I make sure it's still there and nothing has happened to it. In an ideal world, I'd make my emergency water be the tank before my aquaponic system, so the water is never getting old or sitting for a long time. I picture it like a big pre-tank all on its own. No matter how you have spare water on hand, the point here is to make sure it's still there and not gone south, like a family of rats died in it or that neighborhood kid dropped some paint inside just to see it change colors. And finally, we get to stats. Don't worry, I don't intend on deriving some extended equation fully explaining all your water usage and expectations. What I do intend on is sharing the basics. Again, it's routine here. In my mind, having a good routine with your statistics is more helpful mentally than physically. For me, that means I know I'm getting to measure, test, and record on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. On the flip side, it also means knowing what I'm not going to record. And the last part of this is that I know how to do the activity, i.e. measure, and where to record the results so it's not a lost cause. For example, testing for chlorine is not a daily task for me. I trust my water's pretty stable in the long term, but I do occasionally check it for verification. However, temperature is more critical to me, and I try to have a daily handle on that, so I'm not stressing my system in any extreme. Again, you want to think long-term sustainability with your actions, so you have records to help you figure out any issues that come up along the way. I really do hope I'm overemphasizing the routine part here. Okay, so what is a takeaway tool for today's episode? Well, if I didn't say it, I'll say it again. Routine. That's right. Take the time now to think about what is critical to you in your system when you think about water. Then, and this is the tricky part, try to lay out a system for how you want to create a routine that becomes habit for you. If you create a habit consciously about what you want to inspect, measure, and maintain, it'll keep you mentally and physically sharp over the long run without having to drain your energy figuring it out every single time you do it. Then you can focus on the fun stuff, like talking to and feeding your fish. Take care and happy aquaponicking.
This has been another episode of Fish Grow Plants, the podcast all about practicing and sharing the love of aquaponics, hosted by Logan Schoolcraft.